All right, what do we have here today? The Civivi, here we are, Imperium shredded carbon fiber and gold shred, clear resin, contoured handle, stonewashed Nitro-V blade. I'd been reading up a little bit on Nitro-V and wanted to get my hands on one. I hadn't really looked at this knife though yet, so let's open it up and see what we think. Initial impression is definitely pretty. That gold flake is pretty cool. Not too often you get to see gold as one of the metals in your knife. So that's pretty neat there. Let's see if I can get a really good focus on that because it's worth a close-up. It's very slick, so you gotta want that, right? It's not like a carbon fiber weave, it's a shredded carbon fiber. But let's take a look. Let me refocus here. But it is pretty nice. It definitely feels quality in hand. This is a front flipper or thumb stud. So let's get the blade out here. Blade's nice looking. It's what, a stonewashed? Did it say that on there? Oh yeah, stonewashed Nitro-V blade. I think it's a flat grind. I think it's a flat grind on there. Nice little edge on it. Kind of doesn't meet my usual go-to for a knife this size. What's cool about it is that it's long. So it's thinner and kind of lightweight because of that, but it's long, right? You got a really long cutting edge here. Let's see what that is. You got a nice little forward choil there. Cutting edge on that's over 3 inches. The blade itself is 3 3/8. Total knife length comes in 7 and 7.75. Really like the liner lock. It's really easy to get a purchase on. See how it deploys very nicely. Yeah, it's very light right out of the box. Looks pretty centered. Yeah, it looks dead center there. Really like the pocket clip. I think Civivi does a very good job on their pocket clips. This is maybe a touch high. Maybe take that like a little lower, but they do the nice recessed, pocket clip there. It's not ambidextrous, so that's not good for you lefties out there. Let's see if this thing reverse flicks. Oh yeah, no problem. So the action's really nice. For being a longer knife, it's a little skinny in hand for me. The nice thing is this is not a 3-finger knife. This is a 4-finger plus knife, plus you can choke up on it. So from that perspective, it's very functional. I've said it before in my videos, I don't really like a pointy blade like that. I think it's both a bit dangerous and better for a steak knife than for a daily user. Nicely knocked down, nicely jimped. Like, they did a lot of things right here, but the size is kind of weird to me to have a nearly 8-inch knife that's that thin. Let me show some comparisons to consider. I'm sure this is going to come out at some point here. You can see how much more narrow the handle is, versus another knife that size would be like an Ontario Rat 2 is a little bigger. Rat 1. Ontario Rat 2 is a little smaller. So it's in this kind of interesting, like I like the category. You get a lot of blade for the size and stuff. I see, like, I'm trying to think of something that's really similar in size to. Is it like a Bugout? A little bigger than a Bugout. There's not a lot that's the same size, so that might be interesting to some folks that are looking for something in this size range. Maybe the Hogue Deca would be a little more similar. That's about as close of a size as I have here on the table. I guess a you know, maybe a, let's get this guy out of here. 8020S from Demko is much bigger. So yeah, it's kind of hard, like an interesting size. That's the initial impression, is it's like kind of sits in between different knife sizes, which could be good. Like you could be looking for that longer handle. The blade's a nice little length. You know, if you're using your knife for food a lot, I'd say this could be an interesting, like this feels like a nice steak knife actually. Feels like I could cut a steak with it. So that's kind of the thing that jumps out to me the most, is it's kind of steak knife-esque. The forward choil is very nicely sized, easy to use, maybe a little small. Like I do feel like I'm getting right up into the sharp part there. I feel like I might get a little cut there or something like that. Let's see if I can get this front flipper. I'm not a big front flipper guy, but maybe I can see if I can deploy that without hurting myself. Yeah, so I'm not gonna mess around with that too much. I'm not big on using front flipper, but you know, if you're really into front flippers, this one's got it. So that might be interesting. Deployment's really good. See if it's got good lockup. It's a little soft, like a little clicky, but overall, good knife. This right now is on sale for $61.99 on Blade HQ, I think it was. So you're not breaking the bank for a nice blade steel Nitro-V, you know, carbon and gold flake. Like there's a lot to like here. And the thickness might be kind of interesting to some folks. Like it's definitely a little thicker, I think. Maybe I'm off on that. Yeah, it's a little thicker than like a Hook Deca. Definitely thicker than a Bugout. So some people want a little more hand taken up. Now the thing is, it's more narrow this way, so you can kind of see it's much more narrow even than like a Bugout handle. So that's, you know, kind of the trade-off. That's what I'm kind of describing it as, like feeling like a steak knife a little bit. So it's sort of interesting, like what would be your use case for a knife like that? It feels a little less like a daily driver, maybe almost like a large gentleman's knife. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting one. So I just saw it, loved the look of it, and wanted to get it in hand and see if it might have a place in the collection. Does it? That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure it does, to be honest. For what I like in a knife, I'm not sure it does. You know what it reminds me of is a little bit of a bigger tactile knife, knife. Like it's a very similar, like how this is a little thicker. I'd say that's probably, it's even a little thicker than the tactile turn. I wonder what the weight is on this. Maybe 3.5 ounces or something. Let's take a look. But the blade shape reminds me a lot of the tactile turn, but it's kind of weird because it's like a bigger knife with a thinner blade. Oops. 3 ounces. So, you know, carbon fiber shred keeps it pretty light. The blade stock thickness is pretty thin. Let's get a look at that. Get this guy out of here. Under 3 ounces. That's actually, you know, it's a lot of knife for under 3 ounces. That's what I'll say. If you're looking for like a certain length of blade, a certain length of cutting edge, you know, but keeping your knife under 3 ounces, this might be a really good fit for you. Because it's, you know, narrower this way, and yet it still has a pretty good feeling. Let's see how this is. So it's nicely milled out in there on the steel liners. It's well built. Like you can feel that it's well built. Many Civivis are. Like almost all of them are, in fact, in my experience so far. But let's take a look also at the blade stock thickness. And I'll maybe compare that to like a Bugout, which feels very similar. Definitely better knocked down on the top than the Bugout is. The Bugout's not bad, but it's a little sharp here at this end of it. It's more knocked down up here, but pretty similar, almost the exact same blade stock thickness as a Bugout. Not as thin behind the edge, or not as narrow at the tip. So it might actually make up for that length. That length gets you a little concerned when the knife's that narrow. The Bugout's got a taller blade. This has a narrower blade, but they kept it kind of wide towards the end, probably to make it tougher and more resilient. So interesting knife. I keep kind of going back to the Bugout as a real interesting comparable to it. The Bugout's a lot less weight, 1.8 ounces versus 3 ounces, 2.95 ounces. Another one that kind of came to mind that I haven't pulled out yet was the Devo Stout. A very different approach to kind of a similar thing, where you have, a carbon fiber infused, aluminum infused carbon fiber handle, a forward choil, very different blade type. Obviously, this is a drop point. It looks like a drop point, and this is, the Devo Stouts. This, what do they call it? Sheep spoon. It's all one word. You decide how to say it. But the handle length is actually very similar. And in fact, this is really similar, right? This is probably the one that's the most similar so far in terms of length. Of course, that may not help you because that's not a very popular knife. So I'll compare it also to the QSP Penguin here. It's a little longer than the Penguin as well, but in a similar weight range and stuff. So how about a Spyderco Para 3? For those of you that have the Para 3, much different, very different in terms of the Spyderco is going to be thinner and taller in every aspect. So yeah, very different approach to making a knife. Fairly similar on the handle width. It's a little wider than the Para 3, but I've always found the ergos on the Para 3 to feel pretty great. If they made this knife in a shark's foot, I might actually really like it, but not a huge Spyderco fan because of the blade shape being extremely pointy. So yeah, it's a cool knife. It's not for everyone, I'd say, but it is, for 62 bucks, Nitro-V blade steel, it might be a really good fit, for you. And definitely kind of in that borderline between gentleman's knife and a larger carry knife, full-size knife that, may appeal to some folks. And, stylistically, it certainly has some really cool elements. So I'll just give one last close-up and then maybe we'll draw this one to a close. Not every day you can say your knife has gold in it. And wouldn't recommend that for a blade steel. Probably not the best edge retention. All right, thanks for stopping by. Hope this brought some level of value if you're considering the Imperium or maybe didn't even know about it. I'll show one more time. This particular model is the Imperium shredded carbon fiber and gold shred. They also have this in a silver shred and a copper shred. The copper one looking red and the silver one looking, silver and sort of white in the handle. And then this is the gold shred version, which is pretty cool. I think the initial impression may be like that it's kind of yellow versus red versus white, but they're, gold, silver, and copper. So neat. I think, nice job by Civivi, but definitely is going to be an appeal to a particular person that wants this particular format. So I think they did a good job at what it is. All right, that's all for now. Thanks, take care, and we'll see you on the next one.